I'm very grateful to Ahmad for inviting me to take part in this very powerful display of solidarity with the Educational Bookshop in Jerusalem. I'm a Jew and an Israeli, and my sympathies are entirely on the side of the Palestinians. I've just published a book called Genocide in Gaza, Israel's Long War on Palestine. And it's a collection of essays and with an epilogue. And this is my modest personal contribution to the struggle, to the fight against Zionist fascism backed by brutal and racist American imperialism against the people of Gaza and more broadly against the Palestinian people in general. But the organizers of this event asked me to talk not about my new book, but about my previous book, a kind of autobiography, Three Worlds, Memoirs of an Arab Jew. And the three worlds of the title are Baghdad, where we were a Jewish family, where I lived from the age up to the age of 5. Then Ramat Gan, a town in Israel, where I went to school from the age of 5 to 15. And London, where I went to school from the age of 15 to 18. And it's not a conventional autobiography. I like to think about it as an impersonal autobiography. The first half is about our life as Jews in an Arab country, and the second half is my own account of my childhood. My wife read the book chapter by chapter as I was writing it, and one day she said to me, "Avi, I'm very worried. I'm on chapter 5 and you weren't born yet." So I said to her, this is the whole point of the book. It's not just about me. It's an attempt to interweave a personal story with a much wider history of the Jews in Iraq and to explain the exodus of the Jews from Iraq to Israel. And Palestinians don't feature in this book. As Selma Dabar, who very kindly wrote an endorsement for the book, pointed out. The reason for that is that up to the age of 18, I hadn't met any Palestinians. On the other hand, there is a long epilogue at the end of the book in which I trace the evolution of my thinking about Israel-Palestine down to the present day, down to today, when I advocate the only democratic solution to this conflict, one state from the river to the sea with equal rights for all its citizens, regardless of religion and ethnicity. So I'm going to read to you the prologue, the opening scene of Three Worlds. One hot summer day, my father approached as I was hanging out with friends outside our block of flats in the Israeli town of Ramat Gan, east of Tel Aviv. Unlike my companions and me, in our shorts and sandals, my father wore a three-piece suit, a white shirt, and a tie. He addressed me in Arabic, a foreign tongue. My reply had to be in Arabic too. Shame overwhelmed me, and my cheeks turned red. Answers to my father's questions were muddled, monosyllabic, barely audible. What I wanted to say to him was that while it was all right for us to speak Arabic at home, when I was in company, he needed to speak to me in Hebrew. However, in the presence of my peers, I could not bring myself to say anything. Even later at home, I could not articulate these inhibitions. I just wanted the ground to open up and devour me. Difficulties in communicating were to characterize my relationship with my father for the rest of his life. As a child, I never considered how humiliating this incident must have been for him. This was the mid-1950s when I was about 10 years old. I had been born in Baghdad in 1945 to a Jewish family, 3 years before the birth of the State of Israel. My family had moved from Baghdad to Israel in 1950 when I was 5. At home, we spoke Arabic. The language of the young Jewish state was Hebrew, adapted for the modern age from biblical Hebrew. My sisters and I picked it up very quickly at school and spoke it both with our friends and with one another. My father, in his mid-50s, was still struggling to learn an immensely difficult language. It was only to be expected, therefore, that he would speak to me in Arabic. But for me, this was acutely, almost painfully embarrassing. Israel had been established by Jews from Europe and prided itself on being part of the West, of what was at the time commonly called the free world. It saw itself and it presented itself to the outside world as an island of democracy in a sea of authoritarianism. We were Jews from an Arab country that was still officially at war with Israel. European Jews tended to look down on us as socially and culturally inferior. They also despised the Arabic language and what they considered to be its strange guttural sounds. Not only was Arabic the language of the enemy, it was cast as ugly and primitive. An impressionable young boy, I picked up and internalized the beliefs and biases of my new environment. I wanted to turn my back on my Arab heritage, on the culture and customs of the diaspora, and to move into a Hebrew-speaking new Israeli. Speaking Arabic did not sit well with this new identity I was adopting. This seemingly minor episode encapsulates the emotional turmoil that plagued me throughout my childhood in Israel. Nor was it simply a matter of language. Switching from Arabic to Hebrew was only one dimension of the fundamental change that my parents, my two sisters, and I underwent following our arrival in Israel. Thank you for listening.